The crystal glasses clinked against the mahogany dining table as my father's laughter echoed through our family home. It wasn't the warm kind of laughter that makes you feel safe. It was sharp, dismissive, the kind that cuts deep and leaves scars. 30 years old, living in that tiny apartment, and still no real job. He continued, swirling his aged whiskey. I always knew you'd struggle without proper direction, Sophia, but this is truly pathetic. My sister Victoria dabbed her lips with an embroidered napkin, perfectly manicured nails gleaming under the chandelier light. At least she showed up this time, she said with fake sympathy. Though maybe it would have been better if she hadn't. I sat there, quietly cutting my steak into precise squares, just as I had done at countless family dinners before. Each piece exactly the same size, each movement deliberate and controlled, just like my plan. Tell us again, Sophia, my mother chimed in, her voice dripping with artificial concern. What exactly do you do all day? Surely you're not still working on that. What did you call it? That little online project. The little online project they were mocking had just cleared $50 million in revenue last quarter, but they didn't need to know that. Not yet. Actually, I said, keeping my voice steady, I've been quite busy lately. Just finalized a rather significant purchase. Dad nearly choked on his whiskey. Purchase? What could you possibly purchase? A new coffee maker for that shabby apartment of yours? Victoria snickered. Or maybe she finally bought a professional outfit for job interviews. God knows she needs one. I placed my fork down gently, remembering the stack of papers I'd signed just hours earlier. The acquisition documents for Barrett & Sons, the company my father had worked at for 30 years, the same company where Victoria was now Junior VP of Marketing, the same company that had rejected my application 5 years ago because I wasn't management material. Something like that, I replied softly, taking a small sip of water. Let them laugh. Tomorrow would be interesting enough. My father launched into his favorite lecture, the one about wasted potential and family disappointment. I'd heard it so many times I could recite it word for word. How I'd embarrassed him by dropping out of business school. How Victoria had followed the proper path, climbing the corporate ladder at Barrett & Sons while I played around on computers. What they didn't know was that my playing around had built Nexus Technologies, one of the fastest-growing digital infrastructure companies in the country. I'd kept my name out of the press, used a holding company for public dealings, and let everyone assume I was just another failed startup kid living off family charity. At least tell me you're looking for real work, Dad pressed, his voice growing harder. Barrett & Sons always needs administrative assistance. Though with your track record, even that might be a stretch. I thought about the meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning, about the email that would go out to all Barrett & Sons employees at exactly 9 a.m., about how the company's new owner would be announced, and how my father's face would look when he realized who that owner was. Actually, I said, standing up slowly, I should get going. Big day tomorrow. Victoria rolled her eyes. What's big about another day of unemployment? I picked up my purse, a simple leather bag that probably cost more than their monthly salaries combined. You'll see, I said quietly. Thank you for dinner, Mother. As I walked to my car, I could hear them through the open dining room window, their laughter mixing with cruel speculation about my future. I smiled, knowing it would be the last time they'd laugh at me like this. My phone buzzed with a message from Marcus, my COO. Everything set for tomorrow. Board approved the final terms. You ready for this? I typed back a simple yes as I slid into my Tesla Model S, a car I never drove to family dinners. Better to let them think I still took the bus. The drive home was quiet, city lights blurring past, as I thought about the journey that had led here. 5 years ago, I'd walked out of Barrett and Sons after a humiliating rejection interview. Victoria had been on the panel, smirking as she informed me I wasn't qualified for even an entry-level position. That night, I'd taken my savings, a solid understanding of enterprise software, and an idea that would revolutionize how companies managed their digital infrastructure. While they thought I was failing, I was building. While they mocked my little online project, I was scaling. And now, while they laughed at my unemployment, I was about to become their boss. My apartment wasn't actually small. It occupied the entire top floor of a renovated industrial building downtown, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view that reminded me daily of what I'd built. I kicked off my modest flats, replacing them with the Louboutins I preferred when not playing a role. Another message from Marcus. PR team has the announcement ready. Legal says everything's clean. No way for them to challenge the acquisition. I poured myself a glass of champagne I'd been saving for this moment. Perfect, I replied. See you at 8:30 a.m. Settling onto my balcony, I watched the city pulse below. Tomorrow, everything would change. Not just for my family, but for Barrett and Sons itself. The company had potential, but it was stuck in the past, resistant to digital transformation, bleeding market share to more innovative competitors. That's why the board had been so eager to accept my offer. They'd seen what Nexus Technologies could do, how we transformed other traditional companies into digital leaders. They didn't care that I was Richard Barrett's daughter. They cared that I could save their company. My phone lit up again, this time with a message from Victoria. Thanks for gracing us with your pathetic presence tonight. Maybe next time bring some actual accomplishments to discuss. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and reviewed the announcement one last time. Barrett and Sons announces acquisition by Nexus Technologies. Sophia Barrett, founder and CEO of Nexus Technologies, to lead digital transformation initiative. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., this would hit every major business news outlet. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., my father would learn that his unemployed daughter now owned his company. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., Victoria would discover that her pathetic sister was her new boss. But this wasn't about revenge. It was about potential, both mine and Barrett and Sons. I had plans for the company, innovations that would propel it into the future. The fact that those plans would force my family to finally see me clearly, that was just a bonus. I finished my champagne and walked back inside, catching my reflection in the window. I looked nothing like the meek, uncertain woman my family thought they knew. In my real life, running Nexus Technologies, I was known for being sharp, decisive, and unapologetically ambitious. Tomorrow, worlds would collide. Tomorrow, masks would fall away. Tomorrow, everything would change. As I prepared for bed, I thought about what my father always said about proper direction and family disappointment. He was right about one thing: direction was important. He just never realized I'd found my own. The next morning dawned clear and crisp, perfect weather for a corporate takeover. I dressed carefully in a tailored black Alexander McQueen suit, Louboutins clicking against hardwood floors as I gathered my things. Today wasn't a day for playing small. Marcus met me in the lobby of Barrett and Sons headquarters at exactly 8:30 a.m. He looked sharp in his usual dark suit, tablet in hand, ready for what promised to be an interesting morning. Board's already here, he said, falling into step beside me. Security's been briefed. HR has the new organizational charts ready to distribute. Everything's in place. I nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. And my father? Victoria? Both arrived early. They're in their offices. No idea what's coming. The elevator rode smoothly to the top floor, where the board was waiting in the main conference room. Through the glass walls, I could see my father in his office down the hall, probably reviewing reports, completely unaware that his world was about to shift. At precisely 9 a.m., as planned, every computer in the building displayed a mandatory meeting notification. At the same time, the press release went live, and my family's phones would be lighting up with the news they never saw coming. I straightened my shoulders and took a deep breath. Time to step into the light. Ready? Marcus asked, hand on the conference room door. I smiled, thinking of last night's dinner, of all the dinners before it, of every dismissive laugh, every cruel comment, every moment they underestimated me. Oh yes, I said quietly. I've been ready for years. The door opened, and I walked in to take my place at the head of the table. The board members stood respectfully, already aware of what was about to unfold. Through the glass walls, I could see employees gathering, phones in hand, whispering as they read the announcement. And then I heard it, my father's voice, loud and confused, echoing down the hallway. What the hell is this? This has to be a mistake. I smiled. The show was about to begin. My father's footsteps thundered down the hallway, each step heavy with confusion and rage. Through the glass walls of the conference room, I watched him approach, his face reddening as he gripped his phone so tightly his knuckles turned white. Behind him, Victoria hurried to keep up, her designer heels stumbling slightly as she tried to maintain her usual composure. My father's footsteps thundered down the hallway, each step heavy with confusion and rage. Through the glass walls of the conference room, I watched him approach, his face reddening as he gripped his phone so tightly his knuckles turned white. Behind him, Victoria hurried to keep up, her designer heels stumbling slightly as she tried to maintain her usual composure. The board members exchanged knowing glances. They'd been prepared for this moment, briefed on the likelihood of a scene. I remained standing, calm and steady at the head of the table, as my father burst through the door. What is the meaning of this? He demanded, thrusting his phone forward. The press release glowed on the screen, my name and title clear as day. Sophia Barrett, CEO of Nexus Technologies? This has to be some kind of joke. I smiled slightly, the same soft smile I'd given at countless family dinners. Good morning, Dad. I see you've received the announcement. Victoria pushed past him, her perfectly arranged features twisted with disbelief. This isn't possible, she sputtered. You're unemployed. You live in that tiny apartment. You can't even afford a proper car. Actually, Marcus stepped forward, tablet in hand. Ms. Barrett owns the entire building she lives in. As for transportation, there's a Ferrari in her private garage, though she prefers the Tesla for daily use. Shall I continue? That's enough, Marcus, I said quietly. I'm sure they're getting the picture. My father's face had gone from red to pale. He gripped the back of a chair, staring at me like he was seeing a stranger. In many ways he was. How? He whispered. How is this possible? I gestured for everyone to sit. The board members complied immediately, but my father and Victoria remained standing, still frozen in shock. It's quite simple, I began, my voice steady and professional. 5 years ago, when Barrett and Sons rejected my application, telling me I wasn't qualified for even an entry-level position, I decided to build something of my own. That little online project you've been mocking? That's Nexus Technologies. We revolutionized digital infrastructure management. Last quarter's revenue was just over $50 million. Victoria's designer bag slipped from her shoulder, hitting the floor with a dull thud. But you never said anything. You let us think. I let you think what you wanted to think. I finished for her. It was easier that way. More peaceful. And honestly, your assumptions made this acquisition much smoother. My father finally found his voice again. Acquisition? You bought Barrett and Sons. The board approved the sale unanimously. I confirmed, nodding to the members seated around the table. Barrett and Sons needs digital transformation to survive in today's market. Nexus Technologies can provide that. It's a smart business decision. Nothing more. Nothing more. He exploded, his face reddening again. You secretly built a company, let your family think you were a failure, then bought out the company I've worked at for 30 years. And you call that nothing more? I stood slowly, placing both hands on the table. No, Dad. You let yourself think I was a failure. You chose to mock, rather than ask questions. You decided I was pathetic without ever bothering to understand what I was building. Those were your choices. The room fell silent. Through the glass walls, I could see employees gathering, trying to appear busy, while obviously watching the drama unfold. I didn't mind. Let them see. Let everyone see. As of 9 a.m. this morning, I continued, I am the CEO of both Nexus Technologies and Barrett and Sons. We'll be announcing the merger and digital transformation initiative later today. Your positions, I looked between my father and Victoria, will be evaluated as part of the restructuring process. Victoria's face went pale. You can't fire us. We're family. I felt a smile tug at my lips. Funny. Being family didn't stop you from rejecting my application 5 years ago. In fact, I believe your exact words were family connections don't guarantee employment. Isn't that right? She sank into a chair, finally seeming to understand the magnitude of what was happening. Marcus, I turned to my COO. Please escort Mr. Barrett and Ms. Barrett to their offices. HR will be meeting with them shortly to discuss transition options. As Marcus moved to comply, my father stepped forward. Sophia, wait. Please. We need to talk about this. No, Dad, I said firmly. We needed to talk 5 years ago. We needed to talk at every family dinner where you belittled my choices. We needed to talk last night when you called me pathetic. Now we need to focus on business. He stared at me for a long moment, seeing me clearly perhaps for the first time. Gone was the meek daughter he thought he knew, replaced by someone he clearly didn't recognize. Was any of it real? He asked quietly. The small apartment, the bus rides, the struggling daughter act? The apartment is the entire top floor, I replied. The bus? Well, I believe in environmental responsibility. And the struggling? That was just your perception. I never actually said I was struggling. You just assumed. As Marcus led them out, I could hear Victoria's heels clicking against the floor, punctuated by what sounded suspiciously like a sob. My father's shoulders were slumped, his usual confident stride replaced by something heavier, more uncertain. Once they were gone, I turned back to the board. Now, shall we discuss the transformation timeline? The rest of that day passed in a blur of meetings, press interviews, and employee briefings. By late afternoon, my office, formerly my father's, was set up exactly as I wanted it. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city I'd conquered, while inside, modern technology replaced the heavy old furniture my father had insisted on keeping. Around 6 p.m., as the office was quieting down, Marcus knocked on my door. "Your mother's here," he said softly. "Should I send her away?" I considered it for a moment, then shook my head. "No, send her in." She entered hesitantly, looking smaller somehow without my father beside her. Her designer outfit was slightly rumpled, as if she'd been sitting and wringing her hands for hours. "Sophia," she began, then stopped, seemingly unsure how to continue. "Have a seat, Mother." I gestured to one of the sleek chairs facing my desk. She sat carefully, her eyes taking in the changed office. "Your father, he's not well. This has been quite a shock." "I imagine it has been," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. "Finding out your pathetic daughter is actually a successful CEO must be quite surprising." She flinched at the word pathetic. We never meant to hurt you, Sophia. We just wanted what was best for you." "No," I corrected her gently. "You wanted what was best for your image. There's a difference." "Perhaps," she admitted, and for the first time, I heard genuine regret in her voice. "But we're still family. Surely there's a way to fix this." I leaned back in my chair, studying her. "This isn't something that needs fixing, Mother. The company needed digital transformation. I provided a solution. Business is business. And family? What about family?" "Family," I said slowly, "is what you make of it. For years, you and Dad and Victoria made it clear what you thought of me. Now it's my turn to show you who I really am." She stood, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. "And who is that exactly?" I smiled, not unkindly. "Someone who built something meaningful, while you were all too busy laughing to notice. Someone who values actions over appearances. Someone who won't apologize for success, even if it makes others uncomfortable." She nodded slowly, then turned to leave. At the door, she paused. "Your father? He's proud, you know." Beneath the shock and anger, I can see it. He's proud, and terrified, and ashamed all at once. "Good," I said softly. "He should be." After she left, I walked to the window, watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold and purple. My phone buzzed with a message from Victoria. "I'm sorry for everything. Can we talk, please?" I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I thought about the long game, about how success isn't just about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. About how sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should watch most carefully. Finally, I typed back, "Monday, 9 a.m. We'll discuss your role in the new organization." Another message appeared, this time from my father. "You've outdone yourself, Sophia. I never saw it coming. I'm sorry I never saw you." This one, I left unanswered. Some revelations don't need a response. Sometimes silence speaks volumes. Marcus appeared in the doorway. "Car's ready whenever you are, boss." I gathered my things, taking one last look around the office that had once represented everything I couldn't have. Now it was just another milestone on a journey that was far from over. "You know," Marcus said as we walked to the elevator, "I've never seen anyone pull off a takeover with quite so much style." I laughed softly. "It wasn't about style, Marcus. It was about substance, something my family never quite understood." The Tesla waited in the underground parking garage, sleek and silent. As we drove through the evening traffic, I thought about last night's dinner, about how different everything would be now. No more hiding, no more pretending, no more quiet smiles while they laughed. "Where to?" Marcus asked. "Your place?" I shook my head. "The office. Nexus Technologies. We've got a merger to plan." Because that's the thing about success. It's not an endpoint. It's a beginning, and I was just getting started. 3 months later, Barrett and Sons had been fully integrated into Nexus Technologies. The digital transformation was ahead of schedule. Profits were up, and employee satisfaction had improved dramatically. Victoria had accepted a position in marketing, humbled but determined to prove herself on merit alone. My father had taken early retirement, though he occasionally sent emails with suggestions for the company, some actually quite insightful. Family dinners. We still had them, but they were different now. No more mockery, no more assumptions, no more quiet smiles hiding bigger truths. Now we talked about real things: business, innovation, the future. And if sometimes the conversation got a bit tense, well, that was just part of the new normal. As for me, I kept the simple apartment, though I didn't pretend it was small anymore. I still took the bus sometimes, not out of pretense, but because it gave me time to think. And that little online project, it just kept growing, expanding, transforming. Because that's what happens when you stop letting others define your worth. You define it yourself, quietly, steadily, one success at a time. And sometimes, just sometimes, you get to watch their faces when they finally figure it out.